Welcome back to Faces of Parkinson's. I'm Robert Cochran, your host, and today I'm joined by UNLV's Dr. Merrill Landers. Merrill, how are you?
I'm great, thank you.
Well, it's nice to see you here, and it's good to be working with you. In full disclosure, I am working with Merrill, and he's given me permission to call him Merrill, by the way, on a research project which we're going to talk about regarding Parkinson's. I wanted to look at the larger issue of clinical studies, but even before that, tell me a little about yourself. What is your background as a movement specialist? Is that technically where you're at?
Actually, it would probably be better to say that I'm a physical therapist, and I was practiced as a physical therapist for many years before going into academia. I went into academia in 2001 here at UNLV, and have been doing research since that time. And most of my research has been around the neurologic PT realm, and mostly in Parkinson's disease. Parkinson's disease is one of my main interests.
And that's great. Why is Parkinson's one of your main interests?
I don't have a really great story about, having a family member or somebody affected like that. But what I do have is a passion and a love for people with Parkinson's disease. They were amongst my favorite patients that I had when I was a practicing physical therapist. And when I went into academia and was pursuing research, I felt like that was a population that I could help find some treatment options for. And they were needed, and they have a place in my heart, and they always have had a place in my heart. But I really felt like I could have a positive effect on the care that they were getting, and by improving our knowledge in Parkinson's disease rehabilitation.
That's great. Now, regarding clinical trials in particular, I've heard numbers that vary a little bit, but basically the broad swipe seems to be we're not getting enough people with Parkinson's into clinical studies to help progress these studies. Is that accurate? And if so, why should people consider, those who have Parkinson's, getting into clinical trials?
Oh, very much so. Actually, recruiting for any clinical population is very difficult, but I think it's particularly difficult for people with Parkinson's disease because, for one thing, if you have to travel or you have to be involved in a project, the commitments and things that are associated with it make it a little bit challenging. And for us as clinical researchers, we find it really difficult to recruit. In fact, that's our biggest challenge in research. And, if you talk about, I'm on the Parkinson's Disease United Kingdom Grants Committee. We decide who's awarded grants. In fact, I just was reviewing grants yesterday for them. The struggle with all of these studies is just getting enough participants to make your research worthwhile. And the truth of it is, if you don't get enough participants in your study, you may not have enough power in your research design to be able to make good conclusions. And so what ends up happening if you don't get enough participants is that the research is underpowered, and it's almost, you could say, a waste of everybody's time because we're not able to make those definitive conclusions like we want to. So, yeah, in Parkinson's disease, it is absolutely 100% the most challenging and most necessary piece of clinical research is recruiting participants and enough participants to make good definitive conclusions.
Well, that's very interesting because, that goes hand in hand with a lot of where we've come with. I mentioned the website that I'm working with, Parkinson's Place Las Vegas, that what I seem to have isolated through many conversations of people with Parkinson's, including, of course, my dad, is isolation seems to be almost their number one problem. And this fits right into the clinical trials not getting there. And the solution tends to be community. So perhaps with this outreach of community and people getting normalized to come out more groups, we can work toward normalizing clinical trials and continue to speak to the efficacy of that. Because there are some people, like my father, and again, I spoke to Jimmy Choi the other day, who's a longtime person with Parkinson's too. Some of them get a little bit burnt out. That they've heard about, the cure for so long. But there seems to be an uptick recently, too, that from, again, the people I've been talking to in the last 6 months to a year, they feel like some of the clinical trials have been positive to the point, and Dr. Mari told me this the other day, that they feel like they've changed the conversation a bit. They've changed the ability of where they feel they're able to get. Do you feel positive about what you've learned recently, say in the last year or two, that there's a positive trend in what you're learning?
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of hope. I go to all of the Movement Disorder Society international conferences. I see the research that's going on. There are a bunch of researchers around the world looking for cures, also looking for better treatment options, also looking for treatment options that provide a neuroprotective strategy, either slowing the course of the disease, which is one of my main interests, is slowing the course of the disease. But also that social isolation piece that you talked about, that's another one of my main interests. And so, yeah, there's definitely hope, and I'm excited about the potential. There may not be the instant cure that a lot of people are trying to find. That is, of course, the holy grail of Parkinson's disease research. But the second holy grail is finding something that will slow the progression of the disease. And there has been some I'd say there's some promising stuff in that area. And one of the main promising areas is actually exercise. Exercise produces a neurobiologic milieu that actually in animal models is definitely protective of Parkinson's disease. And in adult models, we have enough epidemiologic evidence to suggest that exercise throughout your life can delay the onset or be protective against the disease. So yeah, there's some promising stuff out there. Of course, we have a lot of work to do, but there's some hope for sure.